right, here we go. Overdrive, off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker, and up on TSN 4. Bryan Hayes, Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan.
What's going on?
How we doing? Everyone in a good mood? Everyone feeling okay today?
Everyone's fantastic. How are you doing, Hayesy?
I'm doing very well. Beautiful weather, beautiful day. Feels like summer, man. It is still summer, I guess, technically for another, 10 days?
What do you think is reasonable? We go through a grind, January, Feb, maybe March. Is it too much to ask to just give us 2 more months of this?
I'll take 2 months.
I would love that.
Give me 2 more.
It's not going to happen. I mean, I think we all have to embrace that as Canadians. We understand that's not going to happen. We're a month away from it really starting to drop. You know, the pumpkin spice is in the air. There's a lot going on right now. So
what's your day where you're like, this is just like, when do you say it's game over? You chuck the clubs in the garage.
When there starts to be like a frost delay basically every single day. If you're basing it on golf terms, the email that goes out first thing, we're delayed, we'll let you know when the sheet opens, that's the sign that it's over. You know, it doesn't mean you can't still get a round in or two. Maybe if you're lucky enough to play on the weekend, it's sunny and it's okay.
Yeah, when they send the one that says, we'll inform you when you can go on the golf, that's just
you're
go
done.
home.
You're basically done, and you're hoping for a few more. But, you know, it's not only golf. You know, we're talking tennis. We're talking pickleball. I saw there's a certain partsy of one of us who is out in my neck of the woods these days, and he is a professional biker. And I thought I saw him this morning. I saw a guy that looked like he was 6'8", flying down the street. I had the right of way. He blew through. I was like, if that's who I think it is, I'm going to have words. I sent a quick text. It was not him. But,
wow.
Yeah, there's a big biking community. Like, serious equipment, too. The bike looks like it's $2,000. The helmet, you look like a Star Trooper
I know, but
almost.
get the hell off the road. I'm sorry. You know me, and I just...
But this is the middle of nowhere. You know where I am.
That's
Noodles.
fair.
Like,
that's fair. It's
middle of nowhere is a different story. You know, it's prison rules out there, man. You know, there's not a lot of policing, so to speak. People are just kind of doing what they're doing.
It's just, you guys know where I live, and every Sunday there's like a bike club that drives through, and there's grit grinders that jam themselves into the Speedos and are riding in the middle of the road, and they're going 20 kilometers. And you know what? I respect them, but get the hell out of the way.
Just get out of the way
to where I want to go. They're getting to where they're having a nice Sunday drive, and then they all meet up at the coffee shop and have a coffee and whatever. And like I say, some of them deserve to be in leotards or tights or whatever. Others shouldn't be wearing them. They should be wearing a baggy sweater.
That's the gear, man. That's the gear, right? Like you rock the gear.
Yeah.
So that's
good on them. They're
exercising. They are exercising. Like that's what I was thinking too. I'm like, I'm in my car on my way to get into a cart, you know, and these guys are actually getting their heart rate racing, and they're actually in shape, and they look good, feel good. One spot where this conversation doesn't apply, if anything, is the reverse, would be down in South Florida where the Bills are playing tonight. Bills, Dolphins. It's the opposite in Florida, as you know. Like, once you get into, like, April and May, they're like, we're not going outside for, like, 4 months. You know, it's just way too hot. You go down there in June, July, you get 2 p.m. in July, nobody is outside. Nobody in Florida.
It's insufferable. Like,
it's insufferable.
It's the worst heat.
It's
I don't
so
know what
hot.
is I don't know if it's worse. I was in Arizona in August, and for some reason I found it, like, not bad. Like, as bad as it was when you first walk outside, you're like, this is horrendous. I wouldn't want to be walking around with elderly people or whatever, but it's not that bad. But it's crazy hot, man. Like, me and my wife were at a hotel in the pool. Like, you couldn't walk on the cement.
Right, it's so hot.
It's ridiculous.
And there's no escaping it down there. No escaping it. But, yeah, we got a big ball game tonight. You guys are on the clock. Luke will join us at 5 p.m. You guys will have the pick. As of now on FanDuel, it's Miami minus 2.5. Tremendous information. Josh Allen has never lost a Thursday night football game.
That's where you guys – it's insanity that you even come up with those stupid stats.
Well, that's a fact, and it's not our game.
I get it, but
revealing
you use those facts. You and that other cat who had his own incident today that we'll get involved with.
Did he ever have it?
He had a Delhomme. He had a Delhomme today.
It's I'm telling you, Hayes, it's 10 times worse because of the way he handled it very well. but there's a little part in there where I was like dying laughing because he thought it was his buddy. He had a nickname for the guy.
Yeah.
He had a nickname for it. And the guy, it was just silence.
You're
like, you
kidding
got the
me.
wrong guy.
I was not familiar with this at all.
It is insanity.
Yeah, his nickname was like he called them chipmunks or something. He's like,
hey,
chipmunks, and the guy's
Jay
like,
Evans and
what?
the guy.
No way. You're kidding me. Al's brother? So who screwed up? We can play it because we have it. Did Al's brother screw up, or was it the producer?
Oh,
who
he
screwed
got
up?
jammed up by the producer. The producer's excuse was his numbers and all the numbers.
It's always the numbers.
I know. It's like I had
numbers.
different numbers sync into my phone, and I'm like, what are we
Well,
talking
they didn't
about
have
here?
name changes. You know, when you sync numbers, the names don't change. What happened is it was a jam job, and Al's brother.
Worse than Delhomme. Do you want to hear it, Hayes?
Yes, I'm absolutely captivated. I was not aware that Al's brother ran into a situation.
Please fire
like
up
this.
Al's brother getting absolutely jammed up today.
It's my good friend Josh Ingles, betting analyst at covers.com. What's going on, Jingles?
I think you got the wrong Josh.
I got the wrong Josh?
I think so.
Jingles.
No way.
But who are we speaking with?
This is Josh Goldberg.
Who is that guy? Who was the guy? Like, was it just some other guy who
Josh
randomly
Goldberg.
accepted?
Josh Goldberg's. He's a Blue Jays.
Oh, the
analyst.
baseball. Josh Goldberg,
Yeah.
of course,
Yeah.
covers the Jays.
Yeah, but
That's staggering, man, because that's not even in the same world. Like our Jake Delhomme thing, look at this guy's screen now. What is happening around here? Our Jake Delhomme thing was two quarterbacks that played in the NFL. Yeah. This is a football gambler versus
Jingles.
another
Jingles.
Josh who covers the Blue Jays as a baseball analyst.
let me hear it again
Yeah.
to see where
Oh,
things
that's
go.
staggering, man. And like,
It's
to
my
me,
good friend Josh Ingles, betting analyst at covers.com. What's going on, Jingles?
I think you got the wrong Josh.
I got the wrong Josh?
I think so.
But who are we speaking with?
This is Josh Goldberg.
Oh my gosh, that
The
is
Jingles
crazy.
thing. I don't know why the Jingles. thing
Jingles is so good.
He's so happy
Like,
with
they're
himself. He's so happy with himself.
What's up,
Jingles? Best
Jingles?
buddy.
Just so happy. And even Josh, who he was actually talking to, kind of jams him up because, at least with Delhomme, he immediately said, "This is Delhomme."
Yeah.
And it was a pre-tape, so we were really lucky because it wasn't live.
Do you want to start it? Let's reset
Let's
again.
reset. And
Yeah.
because we pre-taped, we had the ability to say, A, apologize profusely,
Yeah.
B, absolutely throw the grappler right under the bus 15 times in a row. And
But if I'm correct, the grappler thought he had Jake Plummer's contact,
yeah, well, he did.
Right.
What my understanding is he had both.
which I don't believe for 1 second.
Yes, he had both. He had both for sure because we had Plummer before. And I feel like we had Delhomme before, and I would guess he just looked up Jake. Maybe he had it listed as Jake quarterback or something. I don't know. Who knows what the grappler was doing there? But that is again, it was a jam job, and we are so lucky that wasn't live because Al's brother
Right.
was live, and that's just like heart-stopping.
What's going on, Jingles?
What's going on, Jingles? And
JP,
yeah,
you have to, whenever someone says something just a little bit, I don't know, you just have to drop that. Like,
What's up,
going
Jingles?
What's going on, Jingles?
Jingles.
But the other thing, too, is there's the awkward silence. Like, because you can tell that the other Josh at the other end is going, this guy doesn't know who I am.
I'm not supposed to be on.
And
like
it's
this guy's not
silence.
prepared at all for me to
No.
come on. So clarify, because I didn't know that happened and I didn't hear it. Did he just say, "All right, we're talking to you, Josh Goldberg, for the next 10 minutes"? Like,
I
did they
think
launch into a baseball commentary or what?
I think he interviewed him. And they started talking for like 10. Like this was an hour ago. This
I
happened
didn't
at like
know
3
that.
o'clock,
I mean,
I think.
Why is this not blasted? This should be on CP2 for. Like, this should literally be breaking news.
It
Al's
should
brother
be.
thought Jingles was on, and it was some other
What's
Josh.
going on, Jingles?
Hey, Jingles, what's happening, pal? Great to hear from you.
How about this line, though? Who is this?
Who is this guy? Who am
are
I
you?
talking
This
to?
is a live conversation on radio. Who is this? Like, this stare. What would you do if you're staring at Doogie and that happened? You would have scissor kicked the glass. Like
Well,
Al's
again,
brother.
No, if it was him or Taddy, there would be like, it just can't happen. It can't
It's
happen.
the ultimate jam job. For
It
the
is.
host.
It
Like,
is.
with all
And I
due
will say
respect.
this, as someone that would be calling in, If it was me on the line and this guy's going all Jingles saying, "Hey, Jingles, my good buddy," I would have hung up the phone.
I hang up immediately.
Because I would have said to myself, "This is they're not calling. They don't want me,
Right.
and I'm not Jingles, so I'm not. I'm saving myself the awkward stuff."
It's 100%.
Who are we speaking with?
This is Josh Goldberg.
Who are we talking to? Who is this live on radio?
That's a question. Who? It's like a caller. They just
Who
like,
dat?
hey, who? Hey, we go to caller line number 4. Who we talking
Right.
to?
Who's this? This is Josh on the 401. Hey, Josh, what do you got for me?
It was awesome. Al's brother handled it well.
What a
I will
beautician
say that.
Al's
He was a
brother is.
pro.
He's a pro.
had that. You know what, though, Hayes? You got to be careful. Well, you're not on the clock tonight because if you guys were choosing, he's had a rough afternoon.
I know, but actually I'm starting to spin this into, like, this is spin zone, but I'm starting to think this is what needs to happen, right? Like, there's a little bit of karma.
Let's call it a carryover.
I don't know. I think that's a good sign.
Anyway, back to my point.
Yes.
You guys just seem to focus on those. Oh, he's never lost. Well, so what? So what?
I understand what you're saying. I don't personally buy into it much. I'm just saying it is a factor in the game tonight that Josh Allen.
You guys had a stat at the Jets game. You guys had a stat there.
Yeah, I know.
The Jets have always covered on opening
They
game.
always win on Monday
Guess what
night.
didn't
They
do?
always, the Niners coming off a Super Bowl, never cover, all that kind of stuff. It blew up in our face immediately. I'm not suggesting you take our advice for anything. I'm just saying I think the reasoning behind that could be, the Bills have just been a good team. You know, sometimes it's not that deep. The Bills are a good team. And also Josh Allen, short weeks for a lot of guys in the league, it can be a challenge. For him, nothing can really stop him. You know, he's Superman out there. Like, go try to hit him, try to stop him. Like that arm, man, he slings it. He doesn't need rest. He doesn't need a full week off. And I think
a bit of a flip on Allen, haven't you? Like I
love
ever,
him, man.
you've
I've
never
always loved Josh Allen.
I didn't
him
think
or
you
the
loved him.
Bills.
What are you talking about?
You've always kind of been on the Bills. You're like, I don't know this, and this year you just love that.
I'm a fan of the Bills. Listen. The Bills, their history is what it is. You know, they haven't. They find a way to lose. They've run into Mahomes in the playoffs. Josh Allen has warts. Absolutely. I mean, the turnovers speak for themselves. But the guy is a beast. Like anyone undervaluing him, I can't
deny that.
I can't accept that. I can't accept that evaluation of Josh Allen. I think he's either number 2 or number 3 is the best quarterback in the league.
I think last year you were on the Josh Allen for MVP, kind of track. You might have been on there. It's just, you know what it comes with? You have this pronunciation of the word Buffalo. Like, it's like, well, it's in Buffalo. You know, you kind of go Buffalo. You know, like where it's like
snotty. Is that what you're saying?
It's kind of like a backhanded, like, well, nothing happened. And it's just because, when you talk about New Jersey and a couple cities or whatever, there's this little angle that you have. And I've always felt that you had that for Buffalo. Now that might be
I have it for the Sabres 100%.
That's for the Sabres,
undoubtedly,
not the Bills.
and they deserve that, the Sabres. Yet we looked it up a few weeks ago. Frankie and I were talking about it on the air. We were doing this like confidence meter, confidence test. Like, who do you have the most confidence in a team play? I think it was after the Jays swept the Angels for the second time, and we were talking about how the Jays play the Angels. I have so much confidence that they're going to win. And then we thought, okay, what's the team on the other end of that spectrum? A local team that plays someone where you're like, I have no faith. And Frankie said the Sabres, and I think he was right. Actually, I think Arizona is the worst case. Like, they never beat Arizona. They only play them a couple times a year. But the Leafs, like, all-time record against the Sabres, and especially in the last 20 or 25 years, has not been good.
Yeah, it was goofy when I played there. It was.
Yeah, it's just always been the case.
Yeah, and
Sabres always get up for it.
Practice the day before, guys were rolling their eyes like, off to Buffalo we go, and I'm like, something's up here. It was just something was a gong show. It was like 5-on-3 a minute into the game. Ass-face shoots it into his own net. It's a gong show.
Yeah, it has been.
Yeah,
it really has been. Yeah, that's the building that Auston Matthews was drafted in, right? First overall.
Right. Yeah.
So, take that for what it's worth. It hasn't been great to Leaf fans in the past, but it was pretty good that night. And they've obviously won games. And Matthews, I saw, got I don't know if it was a vote of confidence from McDavid, but, Connor said how great of a player he is, great person, he loves the Leafs, and he'll be a great captain. And it got me thinking, like, is that something that everyone's going to get asked about now? Like, is it anytime, when Sid rolls through, when McKinnon rolls through, when Tkachuk is here, like, is it going to be, how long does it last into the season, the Auston Matthews is the captain conversation?
It better last only once, like every time that the first time they come through, and then that's it, because it should be a moot point after that. But yes, you can ask the leaders like Sid and McKinnon and, you know, the guys that are in that stratosphere with Auston, because it is a big thing. But I think you could argue that it was long overdue, and that's no shot at JT. It's just, I thought they were going to, when Auston signed that extension, I thought that came with the C, and, you know, but it's a year later. But it is a big acknowledgement. You know, the Leafs are a storied franchise to be the captain. What number is he, the 26th or 29th captain in history? Something like that. Something like that in team history. It's a special thing. You guys know I'm friends with Dion. He wore that with so much pride, and to this day, like, he's very proud of being, you know, the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Not many people get to do that, and you know, I think it is something that you ask, and it's not, hey, first question, but it's certainly, I think the top guys should acknowledge it. It's throughout.
Well, they're going to get asked about it. I guess it's not about them as much as it is someone asking them. Like, I can't imagine McDavid just stopped the presses. Sorry, before I begin on everything, I want to talk about Auston.
Yeah.
I guess I'm asking the Toronto media, like, is it going to be a constant thing all the time? What do you think of Auston as the captain? Because that's the kind of stuff that generally drives other players nuts, because they're basically like, I don't care. I don't play for that team. I mean, good for him, but why am I talking about their decision on a captaincy?
One thing you can't do is, excuse me, you can't get pissy with every day, because it's every day. Like, there might be some days where you tell the PR, it's like, no thanks. But for the most part, like, coach, captain, you're kind of doing it a lot. Mm-hmm. And that's what just comes with it. So if you're not ready for it, just let somebody know, because that's, I told you, I've watched Sundin every day. It's just like, oh my God, we stink. Everyone's terrible except Sundin, and he's got to go out and answer for it. It's just one of those things. So get ready for it. And you got to have something pretty either positive or constructive or productive to say.
That'll be intriguing to see how he handles that. You know, because that's always a conversation in this city, and I'm sure other markets. Generally, when the team's in a rut or something bad has happened, you know, some sort of controversy might be hanging over the team. It's like, how are you going to handle that publicly? You know, like, what are you going to say after, you know, you maybe you lost 3 in a row, and the last one you just got smoked 7-1 to a bad team? What's your plan? Are you going to come out with totally calm, cool, collected, relaxed, it's all good, we're pros, and we know we're good? That's what a lot of guys will do. You know, I'm not going to overcompensate. I'm not going to freak out. I'm not going to show that type of emotion. Other guys will go the other way and approach it head on and be like, I got to say something. I got to get going here. I got to get some sort of motivational tactic moving in the right direction. I don't know. I mean, he's not overly talkative. You know, he's not generally a quote that pops out. Like, I can't recall Auston saying anything in particular that was overly provocative at any point in his career.
I don't think it has to be, like, provocative, but there's just some, you know what this city's like and the market's like, just some brutal honesty. Like, a Wendell, and it doesn't have to be Darcy Tucker or Wendell Clark or Dougie Gilmore, but I think fans appreciated their honesty. Like, Wendell would just come with the heat, be like, if we play like that, or like if our work ethic is like that, we have no chance. We've I don't know, just be honest. Just be honest and straightforward. I think that's the only thing anybody in this market ever expects.
Well, keep in mind, though, like, there has been, not in this market, but, you know, last year or the year before, you know, Draisaitl gets chippy. Like, these guys get chippy. Like, they play with emotion, and, you know, it's all right to, if you don't like a question sometimes, I've seen Auston kind of go, next question. Like, he's, you know, there were some things, I'm not sure when it was, during the bubble, during COVID or whatever, like, Auston had a few comments for a reporter. Like, it happens. Like, he's just going to have to get a lot more comfortable doing it every day. And I'm not saying, you know, push back. It's just talking every day, because he could talk every day if they allowed him. Now that he's the captain, it might be a scenario, and I'll give you an example. I remember Roberto Luongo had the C. Remember he had the captaincy in Vancouver?
So goofy. It was such a goofy play. Yeah,
but as a goalie,
stupid.
You know, say he backed up that night, which he didn't back up very much. He had to come out and talk. Yeah, they were asking him about the power play. Like that was – it was a big burden, it seemed like, because he wasn't just talking about his play. He had to talk about his teammates' play when it was a completely different position. Like, I think that would be the biggest transition for Auston, is having to talk about the team all the time. The team, what about this? What about that? Like, because he is the figurehead of that team. It's not just, hey, you're on pace for 70. Right. Talk about that.
That's a very good point, and that is probably going to be the most unique element of it. Hey, something's happened with another player. You go talk about it, and that exactly. As opposed to just how was your game, how was the team in general playing. It could be like you look back on the playoffs when Darnell Nurse was in the firing lines on everyone, and I remember there was a presser where it was McDavid, and I can't remember who
Skinner.
He was.
Skinner.
Maybe it was Skinner, and they
Skinner.
posed the question just general. Like I think he was talking. The media guy was trying to get Skinner to answer on it. McDavid said, "No, I'm here. I'll take that one," and he answered it. Yeah. And that's the kind of stuff that I think comes with what we're talking about here, is kind of being a shield, but also having to speak on different players and understanding that that's going to ring out. So we'll see. I mean, we're getting closer to camp, and there's a lot of speculation on what's going to happen with the lineup. And Brad Treliving was speaking today, and it seems very likely Pacioretty's going to be a part of the team all year. I don't think that's a surprise. But our boy Jonas was on the morning show this morning. I don't know if you heard him, but and they knew it was Jonas. It wasn't some other Jonas. It was Jonas Siegel from The Athletic. And, hey, Beagle, what's up, Jonas? And he is suggesting that they are going to look, or he believes they will look, or thinks they should take a look at William Nylander playing center again to open camp, because they tried it last year, and by all accounts that was a Brad Treliving decision. Sheldon gave it a look or two and said, nope, not doing it, not interested. Maybe Tree will try to push that upon Berube again, and maybe Berube allows it to stick.
Well, I don't think he's a right winger. I think we made that clear last year. I don't know why you'd want to try to force that again. And if I was him, who's established himself as a pretty damn good right winger in the league, I'd be like, you're never going to say, like, I don't want to do it or I'm not doing it. But it's like I just butter my bread on the right wing. Figure this out somewhere else. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it, but I don't really feel like playing that position. I don't think I'm at my best, which I don't. I don't think he's at his best in the middle of the ice. I'll say that for, I think, the 5th straight year.
Yeah, I think it might be a precursor to if you can push 91 down to the third line then and have them down the middle that way. Are you thinking that they would push Tavares to the wing? See, well, I think they're looking for flexibility within the lineup.
Yeah.
And you're also, keep in mind, a year from now, Tavares, if he doesn't resign and they don't resign him, he's not in the lineup. So you are going to have
that
Noodles,
you deal with that, Dan. There's so much overthinking with this nonsense where it's like, get the napkins out and move things around. Like, figure it out. 3 best players on the first line, next 3 on the and just put them. I don't know. Well, there's so much overthinking. I find, especially in this market, with this guy's we're gonna try him there. Like, who comes up with this nonsense? It's not that hard. It's really not that hard. Maybe we blow it out of proportion in this market because we're ultra focused on it, and every little thing, like who's going to play third line, we do that for a living. But the actual act of putting the lineup together, there seems to be a lot of overthinking. Like, my God.
Well, I also think, how in the offseason you can start to map things out. Craig Berube, this is a blank canvas for him, right? He's going to, figure out what he likes. But in the end, they go back to what, like, oh, geez, this guy's on the second line, the third line, and then by the, period 2, it's changed, and they've gone back to it. A lot of times, they have an idea where everyone's going to play, but I don't mind, especially preseason, to start the season, give guys a little bit different look. They've got to figure out, some guys in their lineup too. If Pacioretty's going to play, is Ryan Reeves going to be in the lineup every night? Where is, is Nick Robertson going to? Easton Cowan, we're talking about it. Maybe that's to find space with. Maybe Easton Cowan plays on a third line with John Tavares because you're trying to have a veteran guy with a young kid. Like, I think that's the type of overthinking I would be doing if I was in the coach's office, is going, this is what our 6 games are going to look like in the preseason. We're going to try it out because
and that's their job, and of course they're going to be curious. But I also look at, you just gave Willie 8 years, 11-5, because he's a right winger. That's what you paid for. Like, that's what you got. It's almost, Like it feels like it's like they're trying to justify that number. If we're going to give them this much, then we should maybe get them in more of a prominent role up the middle of the ice. And if that were the case, if that was the thinking, then why did you go down this road? Why did you give them the $11.5 million? And I think, they're going to have to figure out what they're going to do up the middle of the ice. The Pacioretty stuff speaks to an ongoing issue that they've had for a long, long time, almost throughout my lifetime, is that it doesn't feel like there's kids that are ready to push. Where Cowan might be, Fraser Minton could be. We'll see if they're ready to do that. If they're not, you're going to get a 36-year-old on a PTO who hasn't been healthy in 5 years. And you're going to try to figure out how a guy like William Nylander, who had 40 goals and 95 points, can play a different position. I'm not sure I see the value in that or the sense behind it. And Domi's another one. Like Domi up the middle of the ice, he had his moments last year, but he clicked at his best when he was playing on the left wing.
Yeah.
Why would he not start the year with Auston? They had a lot of chemistry in the last 20 games of the season and into the playoffs. That's where I would put Max. Put the players in the best position for them to give you the most value.
Yeah, wasn't Max Domi the best when he was playing with Bertuzzi and Matthews?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That line clicked.
That's my point, Hayes, where it's like there's some things that are just kind of sitting right in front of you, and it's like everybody's got this magic touch. I think over the years we've realized that the overthinking and thinking outside the box can go too far at times, and what's it gotten them? Squat. Mm-hmm. So why continue it? Sometimes it's right in front of you, man.
Yeah. And listen.
But like I said, we're talking about speculation and possible line combinations.
Right, exactly. It may not happen. And depth up the middle of the ice is an issue for them, which is saying something because they have Matthews and they still have Tavares. Tavares is still a really good player. He's not going to be at his height. He's not in his prime anymore. But I think John can still give you pretty good value there.
Yeah.
But it's what do you do beyond that with the Camps and the Domies and the Holmbergs and is Fraser Minton ready to possibly contribute in some capacity? Those are all legitimate questions that they're going to have to answer and they're going to have to figure out. But that's why Craig Berube's here. It's his job to figure that out. But ultimately, you have guys like Willie, whether he's in the wing or up the middle of the ice, that has a lot of talent, has a lot of pressure to perform, has to perform. The top end guys, like every other year, they got to be great. They have to perform. All right, we've got Luke Wilson coming up at 5. You guys are on the clock. Timo and Wilson on the clock tonight. Miami laying 2.5 at home. What a monster game! I love this, man. Starting week 2, Bills Dolphins in Miami. You can't beat that on Thursday night.
We had a team meeting. We had a Skype.
Did you? Okay, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. All right, well, Luke's coming up. We've got Steve Tasker coming up as well in the game tonight. Obviously, longtime Buffalo Bill and Pierre LeBrun back as well with other news and notes throughout the NHL. The Jays are off today. They're back in action with the Cardinals in town tomorrow. We'll start looking ahead to that as well. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Luke Wilson getting a little bit chippy in the group chat. Doogie just supplying information. I think tremendous information.
I know, but what is he? It's almost like you're in his ear and you're like, float that.
I'm not asking to float anything. I actually am going to have an announcement for you guys, possibly at 5 o'clock.
Wow.
Possibly at 5. I have an announcement to make. I'm not
fired him.
I'm not going to say anything. Wow. I'm not going to say anything. Jingles didn't help, but I'm not going to say anything.
Al's brother has been put on waivers. He's had a tough day. If that's the case,
no.
The fact that you're not denying
you're gutless and ruthless if you did that to him. That's my friend.
I'm not saying anything. Okay. I'm not giving you any indication one way or the other. Stop asking me. I'm not going to get into it. I'll have an announcement in about a half an hour. Okay. Little announcement.
Fair enough.
Half an hour.
He's teasing it. He's teasing it.
Going into week 2. Yes. All right. We established last week the Hayesy B listing. Hayesy B list, right? That we figured we'd maybe bring into the fold weekly, right? And it could be on a variety of different topics. And
this is our version of the Sports Center Top 10. This is the Hayesy B Top 5, Top 7, Top 10. There's all kinds of different avenues.
Right. And there's a lot of different ways you can react to it. And last week you guys were basically pushing back on everything I had to say, where I had 5 things I needed to see happen and wanted to see happen in the NFL this season. Today, I think it actually fits pretty well with what we've already been talking about today. I have a pressure list, the 5 athletes that play for Toronto teams facing the most pressure. Okay? You guys want to hear this?
And is this just a collect? I just want to know before you get into the list, Is this a collection of 5, or is it like number 1 has got the most?
I'm going from 5 down to 1. Number 1 has the most.
Okay.
This is based on my personal viewpoint of the Toronto sports scene, the players, the teams. There's a lot of different things that will go into it, and I'll explain each one as I go. Let's begin with number 5. I'm going to go with the quarterback of the Toronto Argonauts, Chad Kelly, at 5. Chad jammed his team up earlier in the year. Let's call it what it was, right? Off the field issue. Yeah, it was a bad scene. The last time we saw him play prior to that suspension, he put forth one of the worst playoff performances, honestly, we've ever seen. Like, it was a real struggle for Chad Kelly to the point where he was replaced, and they lost to the Alouettes. He got paid a fortune. They invested in him greatly. There have been very good quarterbacks, great quarterbacks in the past. Ricky Ray, Damon Allen, Doug Flutie. That's only over the last 30 years, 35 years. If he wants to be in that category, he's got to win with the Argonauts. He's got to perform. He's got a chance this year. They're in the mix. The East isn't so great. I have Chad Kelly, quarterback of the Argos, at number 5.
All right.
Number 4, I have William Nylander. Nylander. Now, you might be wondering, I wasn't expecting William. Maybe I was expecting a teammate of his. When you get 8 years, $11.5 million per, full no trade, full no move, the team's saying, you're our guy, we're committing to you, we're paying you, you better chug here. Like, you better be in it to win it. This means this guy, just like Draisaitl, he got a monster deal. He's going to spend his whole career here. He's going to play his whole career as a Maple Leaf. It can't just be about statistics. It can't just be about, Willie riding whatever wave he's on, and he's a great, great player. He had a great season last year. He's got pressure to carry that over. Last year it was contract performances. I'm going to gun it, and I'm going to make sure I get paid, which he did. Now you've been paid. You've got that full commitment. He's got to double down on that.
Double down when you get that money's a big thing. Like,
big time.
I have no idea. We all were paid well playing in the NHL, but that's like a different stratosphere. That's like,
yeah,
you're living a quality of life that's some
He's
serious
getting paid.
cake.
Like, we're talking Panarin money. We're talking Pasternak money. We're talking a guy that like, those guys are in MVP races. Willie can do that. He's got that talent. I don't know if he ever will, but you got to be looking at 40 goals, 90 points, basically every year the next 4 or 5.
How about get 100 points?
Sure, that'd be great.
You're on pace for it last year. What did he end up with?
He ended up, I thought it was like 41 and 94 or something like that, or 97.
I think to sum it all up, for the most part, those guys, without even blinking, it's kind of like the top golfers where at the Tour Championship, all the best guys, they find their way there. You know what I mean? Like, even if it's kind of an off year, they're still right there at the end. So it's like you're just good every year, and that's what you do, and that's what you're paid to do.
That's it.
It's one of those things that just because you're an automatic player, where it's like you're 30 or 40, you're 80 points, you're 100 points. It just where nobody's looking for you to be honest with you during the year. No one's looking like, where is that guy? I haven't seen that guy. He's been quiet. You're there most nights.
Yep, and he's done that the last 2 years, and it's got to continue, and it's got to just continue to be a guy that is an uber performer, because he's one of the 10 highest paid players in the league. William Nylander at 4, Bo Bichette at 3. Bo at 3, presuming he's sticking around, because he's got 1 year left. He's cost himself money the last year and a half, the way he's been playing, and he's cost himself some of his reputation. Vladdy's not on this list because Vladdy's been pulling his weight this year anyway, and I think Vladdy represents something a little bit different in terms of the way that the team's going to handle him. But he's got pressure to get paid. He's got pressure to prove that the Jays should keep him and sign him long term, because he came out this week on the record, said, I want to play with Vladdy, I want to play in Toronto, and I want to win a championship here. Bo's got to get it together here. And if this team is going to be anything next year, they need superstardom, right? They have a lot of guys who are utility players. They have guys who can hit 7th, 8th, 9th in the lineup. They need Bo Bichette to be a star. They need him to hit, 300, have 200 hits, steal a bunch of bases, hit for some power, play every day at short, bring leadership. It's imperative, because they're not getting Soto. He's not coming up here, right? I don't think Pete Alonso's coming up here. They weren't getting Ohtani.
Why do you say they're just not coming up here?
I just don't think they're getting those guys. I mean, listen, this team is not – they're not completely adverse to signing big names. Gosman was a good name. They spent a lot of money. Ryu was a big name. They spent a lot of money to get him. Springer was a huge name. They got him. They have signed free agents over the course of their history. It's not as if
the free agents usually pick L.A. Dodgers, New York Yankees.
Right, especially the big ones. Like Soto's not leaving New York. Right, he's not. And I don't think Alonso is going to leave New York. He might, and Pete Alonso is a great player, but he's not to the same level as a Soto. But I think Bo Bichette has a lot of pressure to get his career back on track, to help this team win if he's going to be here, and prove to the Blue Jays he is worthy of a contract to be a part of that two-headed monster with Vladdy moving forward. Number 2, I got Scotty Barnes. The whole franchise revolves around this guy turning into one of the 10 best players in the league. The whole thing. You want to get out of this rut that they've been in for 2 or 3 years, he's got to grow, and he's got to be a superstar, and he's got to be a leader, and they've already paid him. Right? They paid him, what is it, $250 million or whatever, fully guaranteed, obviously, in the NBA.
But the question is, Bri, you and Masai and everybody involved knows the pain that's coming. So what is the role with a guy that everybody knows is going to be garbage probably this year and probably 2 more years after that?
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. It's on him. You know how you can avoid being a disaster? Scotty Barnes is a superstar, night one.
Yeah.
And
he forces everyone around him to say, you know what, this is enough, and follow my lead.
And that might be unfair. It might be unfair, but you're getting paid to be that guy. You know, and it's even more pronounced in the NBA, where one guy can really change things. Not to the point where you can win a championship because of that, but you can go from a team that might win 32 games to, like, hey, this team maybe wins 40. And then the next year maybe it's 45. Like, it's all going to revolve around him, and it all filters down beyond Scotty. And there's, I think, again, because of the low expectations, the potential for turnover, how young the roster is, and now the commitment to him, and he's the guy. We talk to Windhorst all the time. We talk to guys in the NBA. They're all like, the whole plan is Scotty Barnes. Like, it's got to be Barnes. Like, Barnes he's got to be a stud. They need him to be a stud. And at number 1, I have Auston Matthews. Auston Matthews, number 1. He's the captain. He's the man. It's the team with the biggest fan base. It's the team with the most history, and it's the team that hasn't won anything in almost 60 years. And he's breaking free of the core 4. And I'll drive that at home if I have to every single day on the show, because he's not on the same footing as those guys. He's the man. He's the captain. He's the guy. Just like Sid, just like McDavid, just like McKinnon, just like go down the list.
I think that's a good point, man. Like, you're breaking away. You're not like McDavid's not in any course, any talk, or Sidney Crosby. It's like Nathan McKinnon and Power 5 or whatever. It's like, it's that guy, man. That's the guy. And other guys have to play their role too, and everyone's got to elevate. And everyone, of course, it's a team sport. You can't be on the ice all night, but you're the guy. If this happens, if they get to the promised land, you're going to be the one that people look at first and say, "Look what he just did." And if you want to wear that crown, what comes with that is pressure. And I'm curious to see how he handles that moving forward. So there you go, Auston Matthews at number 1.
I like the separator. You know, those the supporting cat. Like, you know, you think of Colorado, you think of McKinnon and Makar, who's you know, arguably right there. Same thing, Draisaitl, McDavid, but it's McDavid. Like, Matthews has to be the guy, and he has been. But now with the C on his jersey, he has to own everything.
And he hasn't been in the playoffs. He has not been in the playoffs. Like, he's been in the league for 8 years. He had a great series against Tampa when they won. And he had some moments there where it was like, that guy's a beast. That guy personally said, screw it, we're winning this. But there's a lot left there for him. And that's the whole legacy for him. Goal scoring, regular season, all that kind of stuff. It's already been established who he is. Like, in what he's done and what he represents and how much people love him as a player. It's simply about what are you going to do in the playoffs. And that's where the pressure lies in this city to begin with that team. Raptors are in a different spot. Jays are in a different spot. The Leafs are not. They go to the playoffs every year. You've got to change the whole reputation. And it begins with him, and it should begin with him.
There's serious omission, and it's a big one, and it almost tarnishes the list.
Okay.
Oh, really?
So who do you have?
Dude, if you don't know who – I'm almost
feeling – Is it Mitch Marner? Mitch Marner?
Excuse me. I almost feel like you're trying to trick us and say,
no,
you guys aren't even paying attention. How can you have a list without Mitch Marner on it?
I thought that too, but then I want to hear his rationale for omitting him.
Here's my rationale. And the one guy you can look at it and say, well, Mitch is in a similar spot would be Bichette, because I do have Bichette on the list.
Yeah.
But the other guys are here long term. I don't know if Mitch is here long term. Like, I think the Leafs committing to Willie is them saying, Willie, we are committing to you to be a very important piece. Not that Mitch isn't. Of course he is. Marner's a hugely important piece. But they haven't publicly said anything about what he is, what his future is going to be here in Toronto. And, yes, he has pressure right now, but he has pressure to secure his contract. Like, this is a different conversation. And, again, it's my list. I'm looking at it that way. I understand what you're saying. And I think a lot of people will say, well, shouldn't Marner be on there? A lot of this, again, is because people didn't like the way he played, in the playoffs. And he had a down season based on, where he was. And I don't know if he can get out from that. I don't know if he can play himself out of that. But the other guys have to. Because if he doesn't this year, they'll go a different direction. Austin's not going anywhere. Willie's not going anywhere. Scotty Barnes isn't going anywhere. Chad Kelly plays quarterback. I hear you. And maybe you could say the same thing about Tavares. Maybe you could say the same thing about Riley. There's probably a number of Leafs. Maybe Kevin Gausman could be on there as an ace. He's got to be better next year. There's a number of guys you can point to. But that's why it's my list.
Your hot seat list. Is that?
Well, it's not a hot seat list. It's a pressure to get the job done.
Yeah.
And pecking order within the city. And, I think Vladdy could be on there somewhere, too, because Vladdy's the man. And if Vladdy's going to get a $300 million contract.
Easily be on there if he gets that massive contract.
Absolutely. And guess what? If Mitch has a great year and they give him a big extension in November or January or something, yeah, Mitch is right there knocking on the door.
That's what I don't understand. Like you just mentioned a term. This guy's had 99 points. He's basically been to close to 100 points, the last 3 or 4 years? What is he going to do in 1 year for the organization to say, oh, okay, now we're going to give him, the 8-year extension. That's what we wanted to see for the 8-year extension. And he's been here a long time. So can someone explain that to me?
Well,
it's very simple what the answer is, but, is that what it comes down to? It's like if you're the guy in the playoffs and you actually play way better than you have, then we'll give you an 8-year extension? Is that what we're talking about here?
That's what people on the outside are saying. And we were saying that about Dak Prescott, and that didn't matter in the end. Jerry Jones said, screw it. I'm not waiting that long. I'm not going to wait to see if he does it. I'm just going to pay him now. And that's the question. And let's be clear. The same thing applied to Willie, and the same thing applied to Austin. They got their deals without any playoff success. Maybe better playoff numbers at times or bigger performances or what have you at times, not by a lot.
Yeah,
Mitch
big
just put up
picture,
points.
same though.
But it's the same thing. Exactly. They hadn't won anything, and they got their deals, and they got a commitment from the team.
But I think, too, there's two sides on that Marner camp. If he was – I don't know where they are as far as wanting to sign long-term or not. It could have maybe been farther down the road if they put their hand up and said, hey, we want to be here. We want 8 years. We want to do it. Then the Leafs would go, okay, they would have at least something to deal with. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Again, I'm not behind closed doors, but does Marner's camp want an 8-year deal? Do they want to be here long term? He hasn't answered those questions. All he's saying is, I'm a Leaf now, and I want to get ready for the season. Mm-hmm. So I think there's two sides to that, because if he does want an 8-year deal and wants to stay, it's just a matter of carving a number out, I think.
Well, yeah. Ultimately, as long as the Leafs are cool with that.
Right.
Yeah. All right. There you go. Okay. Luke Wilson coming up. Pierre LeBrun still to come later this afternoon. Week 2 starting off in the NFL. We'll get into it. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right. Luke Wilson coming up in about 10 minutes. The pressure list has been posted online. It's going very well. People are responding very positively.
Are you being facetious?
Yes.
I'm being very facetious. People are going nuts.
Why?
It's a list. It's where's Marner? Why isn't this guy on
Where's
there? What happened to Shanahan?
Yeah, Shanahan
I kept the executives out of it for a reason, because I find we talk far too often about executives, and the players play. Players are playing. But, yes, of course, Shanahan, Shapiro, Keith Pelly could be on there. I think Darko Rajokovic is on there year 2. He better get it going. He doesn't want to be the next Charlie Montoyo.
John Schneider.
Yeah, you better figure it out. Get some wins going, make sure there's a winning culture there. Craig Berube's got pressure.
Who got hired in Detroit to coach the Pistons? Massive deal.
Monty Williams.
They gassed Monty Williams' ass this year.
Yeah.
Can you believe that?
He got something like $50 million.
Highest paid coach ever, I believe.
Yes. And
they fired
him. And Monty's like, thank you. Get me out of here.
Yeah. It's a mercy firing.
Mercy. Get me out of here. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Luke Wilson coming up. The pick will be in, and I have an announcement on my plans for Hazenbro moving into week 2. Hour 2's up next.
You better start with it. Like, I want to know at 5 o'clock.
I'll let you know when I let you know.
No,
will be an announcement.
You start with it. That's a tease, and I'm dying because if you fired him, I have to call him.
All right, I'll let you know. I'll let you know right at 5 o'clock. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.